Well, in this video, I'm going to just pretty much share with you my thoughts being an entrepreneur and how I just interpret happiness, because it's a lot different than what other people share out there. It's definitely a contrarian view to this work-life balance bullshit. And yeah, I'm just excited to give you guys my own perspective. So if you follow me on social media, you saw that I made a post that says, if you're putting happiness as a goal for yourself, you're setting yourself up for failure. Why? Happiness is a fleeting emotion. A happy person isn't someone who's happy all the time. It's someone who effortlessly interprets events in such a way that they don't lose their inner peace. And there's two types of programs for happiness. There's external happiness and internal happiness. External happiness is a reward from our evolutionary programs where you get praise, money, drugs, sex, and what it does, it creates a busy mind that craves dopamine and causes anxiety. And internal happiness is rewarded from being in flow state. So that means when you're focused on creating, meditating, love, playing, that means that you have a clear mind and you are allowed to have peace. And there's this fundamental human delusion out there that there's something out there that will make me happy and fulfilled forever, and it's not true. And if someone tells you that it is true, it's because they're trying to keep an open loop in your brain and sell you something, some type of program, some type of coaching, some type of course that will promise you to get happiness as an end outcome. But it's all a lie. It's not true. Okay, happiness, if you're like me, if you're an entrepreneur, we perceive happiness way differently than the regular human. We are the 1% that drives humanity forward, and the way we interpret happiness is through momentum. We're momentum-based beings, right? And if we don't feel momentum in our day-to-day, what happens is we become depressed. And so what does that look like, right? It looks like if you have white space in your calendar and you are free to do whatever you want, it's actually a form of torture for you. Because it's interesting, nobody teaches you this growing up, but what most people perceive as freedom is actually a form of slavery and torture. Us as entrepreneurs, at least me as an entrepreneur, right? I believe that structure actually produces freedom. Structure in your routine. Like, I find so much fulfillment in my routine. I find so much purpose in my routine because it's helping me zone in mentally on what I am brought on this earth to do. Right? Every single morning in my routine, I'm focusing on hyperhydration. That's the first thing I wake up and do, is I hydrate myself so my body biologically is in momentum. Okay? And that's the first step to kick things off, is to get your body moving in momentum. Your organs, everything. Water is what gets everything going. And if you're not drinking enough water, I invite you to start drinking 2.5 liters of water a day, because I promise you, if you're an entrepreneur that right now is struggling with some type of mental challenges, some day-to-day challenges, I call it life getting lifey, because that's just the reality of the situation. It's just life getting lifey, and if you just focus on taking care of you, getting your 8 hours of sleep, getting your hydration in, getting sunlight every day, getting your body out and moving. It doesn't have to be a crazy exercise, but just get out, go for a 30-minute walk, something. And just even meditating, dude, even meditating, practicing mindfulness, all these things are essential to getting you into momentum and ideally into a flow state. Because when we as entrepreneurs get into a flow state, we're in creation mode. And when we're in creation mode, we feel that momentum. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to get stuck in creation mode just to create. You want to be aligned with your purpose when you're in creation mode. Now, all of this, I'm saying this because it's about happiness. It's about happiness and being okay with not being happy based on what society says happiness is. I'm a marketer, okay? That's my career path. So for me to be a really good marketer, I had to understand the best marketers, right? The people that created the breakfast industry, right? Like, I think many people forget, or maybe they just haven't done the research, that the entire breakfast industry, drinking orange juice for breakfast, these are all new concepts. These concepts don't go back more than 100 years. Like, I think they started mainly in like the 40s. But my point to say this is, everything is a construct. Somebody deployed this system out there and created the marketing to get you to buy in to this breakfast system. And they were in control, right? And people don't bring this up enough, that like what you're told or what society tells you should happen is not necessarily true. But you have to be able to think for yourself and question everything. And when you're a marketer, you are brought behind the scenes, behind the curtains of what society believes to be normal, and you see how it's actually created. If you go back to the greats, to the Ogilvies, right, to the OGs when it comes to copywriting, they had to create these realities and make society believe that it was normal. Guys, we didn't have an obesity problem in America back in the day. These are all new things because of new beliefs imposed in society, right? If you even do the research on how Coca-Cola came into play, right, they actually created what we believe as Santa Claus today, right? The holly jolly man, the red guy, the red fat guy, that is a creation of Coca-Cola to sell more Cokes during winter. It's not what people believe Santa to be before Coca-Cola. And it's very interesting because marketers have such a huge impact on society. And you really have to brainwash yourself from the beliefs that marketers have imposed from the 1940s and beyond, especially in America. And it's like a re-brainwashing to figure out what is happiness for you. If you're like me, again, it goes back to momentum, fulfillment, and purpose. If those three things are aligned, I'm happy. I feel truly exceptional. I know I'm in my purpose. I'm doing what I'm meant to do on this earth. And I don't think a lot of people take the time to really think about these concepts and create their own beliefs and analyze if their beliefs are serving them or not. And again, all of this to say is, if you're an entrepreneur and you're struggling and you don't know if there's a light at the end of the tunnel, stop believing what society is telling you that happiness is, because it's not. Growth to me is happiness. The continuous improvement of myself, the 1% better every single day mentality is happiness. Even there's happiness in suffering, right? Because when you're suffering, you're going through pain that you're going to learn from to become better. I don't think the goal should be to optimize for happiness. I think the goal for everybody, especially entrepreneurs, is to optimize for gratitude. Because gratitude, when you instill gratitude every single day and you practice mindfulness, you become unstoppable when you're just grateful for everything. And your expectations, you don't have super high expectations. You don't actually have any expectations at all. You're just grateful that you woke up today. That's a completely different perspective than someone who's pissed off on the street, like in road rage or whatever, right? Like, their expectations of their day-to-day is completely different. So I'm not a fan of optimizing for happiness. I think it's pointless because it's such a fleeting emotion and you actually never value happiness until it's gone. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. But gratitude, that's a state that you can stay in and develop yourself to the point where you can constantly stay there, like, and be aware enough to where you're not. So there's a book that I highly recommend that you read that's called Power versus Force. And it's pretty much this dude that spent his whole life learning about human consciousness. And the highest state is gratitude. It's being grateful. That's like where everything you've ever wanted, like all your manifestation comes to reality when you stay in that gratitude state. And my point in sharing all of this with you is that don't waste time optimizing for happiness. Focus on gratitude. Focus on getting rid of any expectation that you have out of life. Focus on getting clear on what your purpose is. What's your fucking purpose for being on this earth? What are you going to contribute to drive society forward? What were you put on this earth to do? And even that, like, that's a lot of pressure on someone depending on your age, but even that, you can get lost in the sauce. You want to actually have a dark night of the soul, right? What is the dark night of the soul? The dark night of the soul is when you are just taking on so much pain, and it's a process of enlightenment. But once you're done with the pain, you just have so much gratitude, and you're just so much more aligned. You know what your purpose is. It's essentially some type of ego death. But my point is, optimizing for happiness will never get you to where you want to go, because it's impossible to be happy all the time. It's an unrealistic expectation that you're going to set for yourself. And I just don't want you to make that mistake, especially if you're an entrepreneur. Like, focus on momentum, focus on gratitude, focus on sharing your talent, your God-given talent with the world, and using it to create value in the marketplace and capture a percentage of the value that you're able to create. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts here. Just giving it to you guys raw. This is the first time I've just done one of these rants, first of many, so I hope they just get better from here. But yeah guys, I'll see you in the next video.